This stream is powered by Melita, using Melita Gigapower Internet. World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
For only €5 a month, experience every high-definition moment on your TV, tablet, phone or PC. Great teams, great moments, and so much more. TSN from Melita is your ticket to stay in the game. Visit melita.com/sports.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
It's just so dangerous. You're risking not only your life, but also my life.
Wish your Wi-Fi network would just work in any room? Our new Stellar Wi-Fi is AI assisted to give you the smoothest, fastest possible Wi-Fi throughout your home. Stellar Wi-Fi, assisted by AI, exclusive to Melita. Find out more in-store or online.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
With 5 races splitting 5 weeks of action, we are here with some amazing work for you right now. It's all about getting a really good handle straight away in this championship, because although we're in GT3 style vehicles, although we are here on Assetto Corsa Competizione, the World Pro Racing Sprint Series, and what that means is it's going to be so action-packed. Every overtake is going to need to happen quickly, and you could say efficiently at that point as well. And the starting place for this, well, we're moving over to Silverstone, a traditional home in some respects of British motor racing, a traditional home to start off proceedings here today. My name's Jake Sperry. Joining alongside me is Kieran McGinley here for this one. Now, Kieran, this is a track which you know very well. You've been around too and have seen a lot of racing going quite a bit. This is one of those tracks where, from where we say it was 10 years ago to where it was now, those changes to the circuit, which often get talked about, you could argue have been divisive in some respects, but I guess to this point, they've been accepted.
Eventually, yes, I think so. Good evening, everybody. Welcome along, and it's great to have you along for the action tonight. I mean, what a place to start as well. Silverstone. Of all the places to start a championship, you start at one of the circuits that has one of the richest history in motorsport. It's a fantastic venue. And yes, as you say, divisive as the track changes are and still are to this day, the new clubhouse needs to be there. And so these changes have almost ushered in a new era of how the track has to be, a new era of how you have to make your overtakes. You know, you've got the farm, the Abbey section now in towards the loop before you get to Aintree and down the Wellington Straight. Some people say it doesn't have the charm that Bridge used to have. Well, it's got its own track now. It's its own track. And the overtaking opportunities it's created since then have been second to none.
Absolutely, and in terms of second to none, we are live with you on YouTube, on Facebook Live, and on Twitch as well. And you may be watching some of the presentations that we have today with Motorsport.tv, with TVM Sport, and with ESTV, the Esports Television Network. And if you haven't already and you want an opportunity, you can like, you can share, you can subscribe, you can follow, you can do whatever it may be that you need to do to get yourself in and watching more World Pro Racing events. There is stuff happening every single week, and well, the only place you can catch that is right here, right now, and make sure that you are in for the ride. We are just about a minute away from taking ourselves down towards the racing action, but the focus will be today on getting a good start, Kieran, because in a championship like this, and with as many drivers as there are in this championship, it's very much worth noting that if you don't get what you want early, it makes your life 10 times harder trying to get it late on in the season.
Especially in a 5-round championship as well. That's going to be the key thing. Mistakes have to be at a minimum, if at all, in such a short championship. You really can't afford to make those silly mistakes that you might make early on. Remember, in these half-hour races, yes, they're very short in terms of an endurance, but still, the race can't be won at turn 1, lap 1. Can only be won over the course of the half an hour. Just keep it clean, and you should get the results you need.
And we do know one driver who is already going to be on the back foot when it comes to this championship, and it's in the form of hardware failure for Nicholas Hillebrand as part of the Butler Pal Motorsports outfit. And of course, when you have yourself an issue like that, Kieran, it's one of those things where there's nothing you can do. There's no way you've got a chance to boot up and try and get out there and race. And effectively, it's like, say, if you look in the real world, having the engine find a fault, you know, as we head into the practice right now in the soaking rain here in Assetto Corsa Competizione. It's one of those things where you don't want things to effectively fall apart early on, and it's like having an engine, say, find itself missing a cylinder.
It's one of those things in esports, isn't it? You've got to wholly rely on the hardware to get you racing in the first place. It's the bread and butter of actually getting into these races in the first place. And yeah, as you say, for Hillebrand, he's going to be on the back foot from race one, unfortunately, and he only found out a few hours ago. So really unfortunate for him, but hopefully we'll get to see him at the next round at Barcelona, which is next week. It's action-packed. It's 5 weeks, 5 races. As you said, Jake, it's action-packed all the way through now.
We're looking here at Jack Noller in the number 36 machine right now, part of the GT Omega RPM Esports outfit. Aston Martin going through the old turn one at Copse Corner, and what used to be a fast start to the lap is here at this moment a very fast second to third sector styled the lap through Maggotts Corner, the left of Beckett's, and then the third right at Chapel Corner. You can see how difficult it is to follow in these wet weather conditions. There was a definite contrasting of lines going through and a small wiggle trying to deal with that transfer of weight through each corner. And when you don't have necessarily all of the grip that you want underneath you, there are always going to be those concerns about, okay, well, what is the vehicle doing, and have we prepared enough for wet weather conditions?
Yeah, and the drivers will be hopefully prepared to take on this weather. It's, of course, Silverstone, so you're, of course, going to have to battle the elements at some point in your career here at Silverstone. And when you do, you're in for quite a race. It's a bit of a workout here when the rain falls at Silverstone, because normally when it rains, it pours at Silverstone. It's as simple as that. We're looking at Hannes there, the Estonian, in the number 77 Porsche, just making his way through Luffield. And, of course, as you said earlier, Copse Corner, which is that normal... or now the new turn 8, the old turn 1, obviously used to be that huge fast starting start to the lap, I should say. Fast starting start. Yeah, that works. Why not? Let's go with it. Going through Copse Corner now in Waffel there, making his way through. Obviously, it's a huge fast starting corner, but in these tricky conditions, you really have to be careful making your way through those corners. It is so treacherous going through Copse Corner, and especially on the outside as well. Those curbs are unforgiving in the dry, let alone in the wet as well. You've got to be so careful you don't spin up the tyres and find yourself facing the wrong way early on in this race. Luckily for the drivers, it is only the practice session. We've got the 15-minute qualifying session coming up later on, followed by half an hour worth of racing. So time is of the essence for these drivers. They've got to get up to speed with these wet weather conditions very quickly.
It's worth noting here today, ladies and gentlemen, that we are running under Blancpain effective rules. So that means that we will be starting off this race up at the old turn 1 at Copse Corner to get things all sorted out. Something else that you may be noting are the small yellow bars which are going up next to the names of certain drivers here up on the field. That will be an indication of exactly where drivers are going to be out there on circuit and trying to find themselves a way around, as we look at Hazma Belhassana here, trying to make the H3 Racing Lexus find a good turn of pace. Worth taking a look at how the top 10 looks at the moment in this practice, because we have ourselves at just a count 6 Lexuses inside the top 10. Are they maybe the wet weather car of choice today?
It's very early on in this practice session, and I think sometimes you'll get that element of drivers holding back going out there in practice session. They won't necessarily want to reveal their true pace until later on in qualifying, because then you've got less time to react for the other drivers in your lap time. So we've still got 11 and a half minutes to go. This will purely be drivers trying to go for some sort of race pace. They'll know they need the consistency in these treacherous conditions, and then maybe towards the end of this session, probably with about 4 minutes to go, we'll start to see drivers go on to their flying lap and possibly onto that practice qualifying lap, and we'll be able to get a better idea of how qualifying should shape up to be. Kesey there making his way through. There is Brioni in the number 3 Lexus now. Let's see how he tackles through Copse Corner here. And little bit of a twitch of the back end there as it tried to steer its way through, and then in towards this legendary complex here. Maggots in through Beckett's, relatively unchanged through its history. Obviously, it's had this chicane outlet for a number of years now, but still just as fun to go through. And then you make your way in through that left hand of Chapel, down the Hangar Straight. And of course, the Hangar Straight pretty much unchanged over the years we've come at Silverstone. And then you make your way towards Stowe Corner, this fast right-hander here. Very easy to take too much speed into here. Got to be careful of the understeer on the exit as you make your way down through Vale and then towards that Club Corner section. Braking hard now in towards the left-hander. The Ferrari just ahead here, maybe trying to get off the racing line. You can see a little bit of an undercut there from Brioni just to try and get some traction as well as make them move there through Club Corner and onwards now towards what was, of course, the start-finish straight. It won't be here today. Heading your way now towards Abbey. Fast section here. Throw the car in and hope it sticks. You saw that bit of understeer midway through the corner before the car then gripped on again as you head way through Farm and then on towards Village here. Tight right-hander in towards the loop. A good overtaking opportunity if you can get the exit of Village spot on. Slowest corner on the track, the loop. You've got to make sure you get the traction zone spot on as you turn through Abbey. Try not to scrub off too much speed because you'll need it all for the Wellington Straight. On towards Brooklands here. The windscreen wiper doing a really good job of keeping that water off the windscreen altogether. Now making our way in through Brooklands here. Long left-hander followed by Luffield. The long right-hander here. The right-hander that seems like it goes on forever. A bit of a twitch there from the back end. A little bit too much speed maybe taken through Luffield as we now head our way on through Woodcote there. And the driver running on board with Brioni decides very last minute to abandon that lap time and heads towards the pit lane. But that's a partial lap here of Silverstone, and you can just see on board how treacherous these conditions are and how difficult it is for these cars to just keep them in a straight line, let alone go around the corners.
Absolutely, and Brioni on that last lap, which he didn't finish, wasn't ideal, but the lap before that he did jump up into third position in terms of the times. Looking at Miguel Nato here at the moment, number 62 machine, looking to try and get a pretty solid run of things out there at the moment. And we are going to be seeing here maybe just how this is going to be playing out. We do have a couple of different categories available to certain drivers. You see there's quite a few people with the pro license there and a few people in the silver category here, Kieran.
Yes, and obviously those two classes, obviously they'll be looking to be the top of their own class, but it allows those drivers there to really understand and get a full understanding, really, of who they're actually racing. And obviously there's a difference between the two classes of drivers, so we'll have to see who's the best of each of their classes. At the moment, Amato there at the top in the number 37 Lexus in that silver class, and then Brioni in third place overall, but leading the pro class in the number 71 Lexus. So as you say, the Lexus here looking pretty strong early on. 1, 2, 3 for the team.
1, 2, 3 doing well. Of course, they are in different teams, but in terms of the manufacturer, it definitely is a 1, 2, 3. Sheldon Muscat is running around in the AMG Mercedes for the GT Omega RPM Esports outfit. He is currently the leading Mercedes out there today. The second one is with Mr. Stramer, who is down in 16th position at this moment in time. Seeing a couple of Audis out there. Porsche's looking quite good, and one Nissan there with also just one Ferrari as well in the top 22. Dean Vella, another member of the GT Omega RPM Esports outfit, but he is running the Audi, the 4 rings that we can see right there. And it's worth noting right now that just looking at who's in maybe more unconventional vehicles, it seems like GT Omega have all of their drivers in different machines so that they have probably, I would say, by team strategy, at least somebody up there. Part of the NERT team, Diego Riboldi, will be certainly hoping that that Ferrari comes into play maybe around a different circuit later on in the season.
Yeah, and being the only Ferrari is a lot of pressure for the Ferrari manufacturer in themselves. They're putting all their hopes on Riboldi there, but the NERT team will be hoping that they can get up the order as far as possible, as we see the number 24 Porsche here of Plivash making his way in towards that left-hander of Brooklands, followed by the right-hander of Luffield, and trying to tiptoe his way through would be the more accurate word, as he tries to now make his way in that open road racing Porsche on through Luffield and then straight in towards that pit lane there, deciding not to complete the lap.
And you'll be seeing this quite a bit in practice. Drivers not feeling too confident on the tyres, maybe using a little bit and sighting their way around a couple of laps here to make sure that they are all playing quite nicely with the way things are going about. We're looking at Hasma Belhassana at this stage in the Triple Eight, making a way down the Wellington Straight towards that next corner on track, the penultimate corner of Brooklands. A lot more of an open corner now than it used to be before that big final right comes along. And this is something about wet weather conditions that often doesn't really translate too well into sim racing, but something that could play a factor here today in Assetto Corsa Competizione, and that is the different lines that could potentially be taken through a corner. You are always searching for a little bit of extra grip here and there, and there might be an opportunity for maybe a couple of drivers, say it's a long 180-degree corner, to hold it around the outside today, as we look at Umberto Noto here with a Bentley in 14th position.
Yeah, 207, pretty much 207 flat there from the 504 Bentley of Umberto Noto there in that Bentley, and it's a pretty unconventional car to bring, but a very fitting car here at Silverstone. As you can see, it tries to make its way in through Maggots and then towards Beckett's here before it then has to tackle Chapel. At the moment, 14th place though, so well and truly in that midfield at this moment in time as he now makes his way on towards the Hangar Straight.
And this Hangar Straight, of course, a former airfield circuit, as quite a few circuits actually in the United Kingdom were converted out of air bases as they moved through to Stowe Corner and the bottom end of this Silverstone track. We're about 4 minutes away from qualifying, and the in-sim time right now is 1:40 p.m. in the afternoon. For those wondering how dark it can get when it does rain around this place, it certainly is a very, very dark racetrack at this moment in time. But there is also a few things that drivers will be looking to try and conserve when they do go around this place. And this is part of Assetto Corsa's system, and that would be one of the things that you don't want to do around here in terms of racing online on Assetto Corsa Competizione, and that is make mistakes like that, because there is a consistency marker going through every corner on how you tackle each line, how close you get to an apex, how much speed you carry through each corner, and it all goes back to a certain rating. And if you get a really nice consistency rating out there on circuit, more often than not, you're up there right at the pointy end of races.
Yeah, and that's always a great place to be, isn't it, really? That's where you want to be. That's where all the drivers are aiming to be. But we're seeing the number 37 there of Pierluca Amato tackling now in towards Chapel and in those Lexuses. And again, we've now got 4 Lexuses in the top 5 right now. So incredible pace from all of the drivers in the Lexus right now, as we see Amato now tackling in towards Stowe Corner, that long right-hander there. You've got to be so careful there, getting just onto the curb there as he now makes his way through Vale and in towards that club corner section through the left, and then the double right-hander. You can see that even from the external cameras, you can see how much that car is really struggling, especially in the low speed sections, to grip onto the track as we now come on towards that short run up towards Abbey and Farm. That's a fast right left-hander. You just got to be so careful through here that you don't overcommit. You don't want to understeer whatsoever.
Absolutely not. But here's my question. Is it Lexuses or Lexi?
I think we'll have to throw that to the floor, I think, to be honest with you. It's an age-old question, isn't it? And we've never found the answer.
Well, not yet. So if anybody knows any directors of the Lexus racing team, they can definitely find themselves with an opportunity to ask the most important of serious questions that we have at World Pro Racing. Is it Lexuses or is it Lexi? Answers on a postcard. Of course, for those who are watching with us live, you can say in the comments down below. But for those of us who are joining us right now and watching this one a little bit further into the future, there is still a lot of racing to go, and maybe you've already found that answer if you come to us right at this stage. But with just a minute and a half to go, what's going to be the keys as we look at Jan Nicholas Urbink here as we head over towards qualifying. What's going to be the keys of getting this qualifying session in not necessarily changing conditions, but very, very damp condition?
You have to be confident. You have to be confident in the car. The setup is all there. You've had the practice, you've had the time, you put the hours in to get the setup that you need. Now you need to rely on it. You need to have full confidence. If you don't have full confidence in the wet, in these conditions, in your car and in its setup, you're going to be nowhere near the pace. You've done all the practice, you've put all that time in to get your setup in. Now you need to have the faith in the setup to get you up the order. And then the other half of that is you've got to have the confidence in yourself in these treacherous conditions as well. It's no good setting the car up if then you're not as confident as the other drivers out there on your lap time. If you want to try and get yourself up the order, you have to be brave. And being brave will get you straight up to the top of the order.
And it looks like Amato has been the bravest driver. Here is the H3 racing driver, Redouane Messaoud, who is a Frenchman and making his way past the bottom half of the circuit, looking to ride on up here right at the end of free practice, which is just about at this stage coming to an end. The checkered flag does come out, and we will be just seeing the final few drivers putting their times in, I believe, on the board before we move on over towards qualifying action. But he is the first of the Porsche drivers out there on track. Both of the H3, or actually H3 as a team exactly, are having a really good run of things here today. They are 4th, they are 6th, and they are 7th in what is a Lexus and Aston Martin and a Porsche. So another team, another outfit that has decided they have wanted to change up their philosophy, change up their vehicles. And that also does leave you in a catch-22, because whilst you choose the vehicle that you're most comfortable driving with for the season, at the same time, wouldn't you say here, Kieran, that if you've got all 3 drivers in the same kind of car, that you've got an easier time working out setups for maybe everyone instead of 3 separate setups?
That is a case. And it's a very valid point. It would make setup a lot quicker and a lot easier between all of the drivers. However, by putting your drivers in 3 different cars, you've got 3 different opportunities to get to tracks where the car is stronger. Now, we've seen here the Lexuses, that top 5, all Lexus cars at this moment in time. Incredible stuff here in practice, although qualifying will be a different story. Now, if this is the case, if this is the ideal or the pace that we're expecting later on today, then the Lexuses are the car to be in at the moment, but they might not be the car to be in when we head to, say, Barcelona or maybe even Brands Hatch further down the line. By using different cars and throwing everything they've got at the track, then there's going to be places and chances where some of the cars might be good, some of the cars might be weak. But by doing that, you've got a good chance as a team to get a really good result.
You certainly do. And of course, we now move over towards qualifying, and a different mindset is definitely going to be on the horizon of every driver here. Practice is all about finding your toes, especially at the start of a championship, Kieran, when you don't know how good every other driver is going to be. You don't know maybe all of the names on the list. As you look on down, you go, well, okay, which driver am I going to be racing here today? And where am I going to put myself in terms of this championship push? Especially when you've got such a diverse choice of car type as you have here in Assetto Corsa Competizione, it's almost like you have to see through a crystal ball to know who your rival is each time you go to a track.
And that's especially true at the start of a championship. However, I think when we get to qualifying, you'll have a clear idea of who you're racing and who might be sort of top of the order, who might be at the back end. As well as that, you're going to have drivers that have strong tracks. You're going to have drivers that have weak tracks. And Silverstone is one of those circuits where you need to have the confidence, especially in the wet, in order to get the most out of the car and out of the track in order to set that really good lap time. We're seeing here Luke Whitehead making his way out onto track in one of those Lexuses. And we've seen here how good those Lexuses have been so far, occupying the top 5 spots in practice. We'll have to see how they do in this qualifying session, which is underway right now.
and how difficult is it going to be in these conditions to make sure that you are perfectly poised? You've got a knife edge, so to speak. We're not seeing too much spray being kicked up here by these GT3 category vehicles, but what you also have to deal with is track position. There's 27 vehicles here today looking to try and challenge in this opening race, Kieran. So the question becomes, where do you find yourself the most amount of space to get the best possible lap available under your bonnet?
It's a really tricky one, isn't it? Because when it comes to wet weather running, the idea and the philosophy of that one lap fast pace really comes into effect, because with the wet weather, normally the strategy to go is try and set as many laps as possible and just keep going out there, because the more laps you set, the more cars that are out there, there's a higher chance of the water being dispersed from the racing line. Therefore, there's a chance that the laps can get quicker. However, what we've just seen going through in towards Luffield and then in towards Woodcut there, you've got drivers trying to find their own space out there. So the track's big enough. I mean, it's over 5 kilometers long here at Silverstone. The track's big enough for 27 cars, but what they've got to be careful of is not tripping over each other on their lap. Once they trip over each other, as we just see, there's one of the green cars there making their way, having an excursion off the track. That was one of the Bentleys having a field trip, if you like. But we're watching Kunjabo here making his way in through Chapel. Yeah, finding your space is going to be crucial out there. But keeping your own head and keeping your own space is going to be one of the keys to setting your good qualifying lap. I wonder what the teams are going to be thinking. There's a lot of teams here that have quite a few drivers in the lineup here tonight. And it's all about that communication between them all. Do they run together in a similar part of the track, or do they just say, do you know what, leave me to it. Let's see what I can do.
Being left to it right now on screen is Christopher Legreston here, who is going through Beckett's corner and into Chapel right now, as we are just about going to see the first lap times coming in on the board. We're going to be keeping an eye out on who is going to be jumping up where as those times come in. And this final sector doesn't seem like much on paper. Oh, you've only got one right-hand corner, a left, and then another right to finish the lap. But this is where so much time can go away, especially in wet weather conditions where you are really struggling at the middle part of a lap like this, where you're trying to just fight against grip and you've got cambers to deal with as well. For a track which is a former airfield circuit, as we are starting to see those times now on the board, it looks like Nolla is currently the quickest at the moment over the start-finish line, as Brioni does jump a little bit faster in the 71 Lexus. It is a case to be made that every driver in that middle sector is going to be looking at keeping the car as tight and as narrow as possible.
Yeah, keeping it nice and clean through the back middle sector is going to be a crucial part of your lap. And especially in that low speed section, you've just got to make sure that you have enough grip. It's the mechanical grip which is going to help you through there. You can put as much aero as you like, but through those low speed corners, as we see there, that's Piardi who's had enough there. Can he keep it out of the wall? No, he can't. Slams into it on the right hand side. That's just coming out of Cop's corner, I believe that was. So that's not a great time for him whatsoever. So he'll have to try and struggle on, but yeah, not great. Not a great way to start your qualifying session, considering you've only got 9.5 minutes left on the clock.
Exactly. If you start making mistakes early in qualifying, you don't have long to rectify them, so that will be a little bit of a worry. Brioni, though, for Musto Racing, well, he is the fastest, and it's almost like beat, get out of the way. It's like trying to drive up to the circuit at this stage with all of the fans in attendance there in the virtual grandstands that they have at the moment. And this is what we are starting to see here out on track. We're starting to see here maybe drivers who are on a lap, drivers who are not on a lap, just pulling over to the side, making sure they're out of the way of everybody else and finding themselves that little bit of space on track so they can go out there and really attack some of the laps. Your top 5 at the moment: Brioni, Amato, Whitehead, Nolla and Urberic is your top 5 that you see at this stage. 4 Lexuses inside the top 5, and Nolla the only real outlier at the moment, and it seems like the next best car out there on circuit today is the Aston Martin.
Yeah, just as you say that, Missile gets up to P4 there in the number 2 Porsche, so that's a great lap time from him to get that Porsche up the order. Maybe we're going to see some lap times come onto the board that are more representative of the driver and of the cars. Brioni there in the Musto Racing Lexus tackles now in towards that legendary Copse corner, and he is quicker. Yeah, his last lap time 2:04.3. So maybe just that little bit of a toe from the Bentley ahead of him might give him a little bit of advantage, but he won't want to see that. He won't want to see that Bentley going through this high-speed section of Maggots and through Beckett's. You want the track to yourself at that point.
Absolutely you do. Of course, there isn't much, say, of a dirty air effect in these style of vehicles, but there is enough, and you can see that those windscreen wipers are going to have to be doing a whole lot more amounts of work here in terms of trying to displace all of the water droplets that do get chucked up in the air off of the track, and that's always something that does concern a driver when you're going on through and you are following behind another driver out there on track. You have to make sure that you are not necessarily close enough to, well, you have to get close enough to make a move in the race, but you often get your visibility slightly impaired and you need that windscreen wiper to go maybe just a little bit quicker, and that can sometimes just be a little bit disconcerting for some drivers who are maybe liking it more when there isn't really anything impeding them and blocking their view. That's why we sometimes say, Kieran, you get dry weather specialists and what is often revered when it comes to racing, wet weather specialists.
And these are the sort of conditions that really, we've got another car off in the distance there, just on the approach in towards the loop. Yeah, as you say, dry weather specialist, wet weather specialist, you know, they are different breeds, the two of them. You'll see the wet weather specialist absolutely love these conditions. Whenever there's a little bit of spots of rain on the track, you can instantly see they perk up. You see the lap times get more and more consistent as they try and find the grip out there. Some drivers love trying to find the grip in these treacherous conditions, and it's so rewarding for them when they actually do find the grip out there that maybe another driver hasn't.
And we're looking at drivers here in the mid-pack at this stage. We've got Miguel Nato in 13th position. He's behind Ryler in what is 12th in the Lexus here. This is a pretty good run heading towards that final sector and Brooklands and Luffield corner, and you can see here drivers not using all of the circuit going all the way out to the left hand side. They can still carry that same amount of speed that they need to through the mid part of the corner, and they're not necessarily going to be losing all of that time on the exit of the corner because you've got such a short run here between Brooklands and Luffield corner.
I mean, it's an important run, isn't it? You've got to make sure that, you know, coming out of Luffield is not going to be a hindrance to you. It is such a difficult traction zone to get right, because then it gets you up towards the right-hander of Copse Corner, that legendary first corner here today in the race. And that's somewhere where you don't want to be vulnerable, and that's all from the exit of Luffield. Get that right, and chances are you're going to have a good chance of taking Copse Corner at the right pace and right style that you want.
Absolutely, and this is where we're going to be looking at drivers who maybe want those times, and oh look, he's managed to somehow fix his issue late on. So this is going to be a trial by fire for Mr. Nicholas Hillebrand in the Butler Powell Motorsports machine, and this is what I think a lot of sim racers really do look at and go, oh really? We've got no time to work this one out. We just got to put one good lap in on the board. That will be very, very interesting to see. 29 drivers now here today, and Hillebrand has got probably the most unenviable task of effectively hot lap shootout.
Yeah, all the pressure is on Hillebrand right now, but in fairness to him, fair play to him for fixing whatever the hardware issue was with his computer. He's here right now, out in the car, and I think he'll be happiest with that. I think it might be a little bit frustrated that it's taken this long to actually fix the issue. It's taken a few hours at least. However, he has fixed the issue. He is here. He is in qualifying. And hopefully he'll be on the grid for the race, which is really important for him, because then that means he's got a great chance of getting his championship off the mark.
Well, you can see here on the right-hand side, this is an outlap that he's on at the moment, and he'll be going on to a flying lap, because you can see with the race logic timing that's there on the right, he's up at 5 minutes 52 seconds, which is not a representative lap time at this stage. But every driver's going to be hoping that they get good times on the board, and when you've got 29 looking to try and get themselves a good race, it's going to be all about, well, how aggressive can you be in qualifying? We have seen a couple of changes up and down the order. Messaoud is there in fourth place. Krizi is there in 5th place at the moment. But since the start of qualifying, we haven't really seen too many changes as we look at Tom Otti right now on the brakes into the left. He's in 14th position in the 114 Lexus and doesn't have a team, as is the Emil Frey Lexus Racing name is the default for that machine. But now it's about progress to get over towards the start-finish line and make sure that it's all going to work nicely through the final corner. And here is that drive to the line, and we'll see if there is any improvement on this lap. And the answer is it is a 2:06.429. It does remain in 14th place, though, and you can see the difference there in terms of 14th to 10th place, because that's almost a whole second's worth of difference. 8/10 split 4 places in 10th to 14th.
Yeah, and Otti there, especially going through Luffield there, really struggled on entry in getting that car to bite down onto the track and give him the grip that he needed. And easily he lost a couple of tenths there at least on his lap time. But he's got another chance to try and get that lap time right. And we're seeing here drivers crossing the line now will get a chance of setting a flying lap. But after this point, you're going to have to say this is your final flying lap now.
And, of course, this is the 15th anniversary of the passing of the legendary professional wrestler Eddie Guerrero. And you could say, as part of his philosophy, that these drivers need a little bit of a Viva la Raza feel in terms of the way that they've got to get their laps all working together, because this is where you don't have any more margins for error. You're down to the final minute and a half, 2 minutes. It's a long lap around this place. It's over 2 minutes in the rain. And so if you are going out there on the final lap looking for a bit more pace, now's the time to do it, as Sheldon Muscat does find improvement, 2:05.4, but he's still 1.1 seconds off of the quickest time, which is Tiziano Brioni here, who is doing a really, really good job of putting himself right at the pointy end, at the front of this field. Whitehead there in second, Amato in third, and of course there's the charge to the line, and that just makes life even easier when you can find an extra 4 tenths and put a 2:04 flat down and say, beat that.
Oh, great lap time from Brioni there. Asserts his dominance at the top of the field. And I wonder if he's going to go for maybe one more lap and try and get his way up the order even further. We'll have to wait and see how he tackles the rest of the lap. But that's a marker set to the likes of Whitehead, to the likes of Amato, and to the likes of Messaoud, who we're seeing now tackle the final couple of corners as he now makes his way in towards Brooklands, trying to get that Porsche to grip down onto that really sodden tarmac as he now makes his way in towards Luffield in that number 2 H3 Racing Porsche, trying to get the exit as clean as you like out of Luffield, and now through Woodcote towards that start-finish line. Is this going to be an improvement for the Porsche driver? And it is a 2:04.7, but it doesn't get him any higher up the table.
And that's the frustrating part. Anybody who has a P next to their name is in the pits at this moment. They will not be able to find those improvements if they are out there on track. Jan Nicholas Erbrich here is going to try and get the LL Racing car up nice and close through the mid-sector here. The timer has expired here in qualifying, so it's all about those final laps and seeing who is potentially going to be jumping up the order. Messaoud definitely won't. He's down in the pits right now. He's decided, you know what, I can't find anything more out of this one right now. So Erbrich, though, does get dropped down into 8th place because Vaffel has moved up into 7th place with a very late time. The Estonian in the Incoherent Racing Lines car has done brilliantly in the number 8 to 2:05.1, but we are expecting more drives to come across with times. Nola will not improve from 6th position out there on circuit, and we continue to look and see whether the timing tower will have some little changes. Hasma Bel Hassana is definitely going to try and make sure he finds some improvements in the 888, and it's 2 places up. He jumps now onto the inside of the 4th row in 7th position. What a time to find that. A couple of places here means so very, very much, and we'll be seeing here very late here a few more changes come in on the grid, but there is no changing the fact that Tiziano Brioni is looking heads and shoulders above everyone else, Kieran.
It was a fantastic lap, wasn't it? He certainly got that confidence, and that will give him the edge going into the race here tonight of saying, I'm the fastest driver out there. You know, he seems to have got a grip of these conditions. He knows how to drive in these treacherous conditions there at Silverstone. And he's going to be the man to beat when we head into that half-hour race. Half hour is not a long time when you think about it. It's only a good enough for about 13, 14 laps here at Silverstone, if that, if we're lapping in those 2-minute 6, 2-minute 7s. So there's not going to be many laps here at Silverstone, but there's going to be plenty of action.
There certainly is, and you can say that times are going to be maybe even slower when you have to remember that that track is going to get a little bit more damper. And if you were very eagle-eyed and looked at the top left of screen when everything was going about and looking at the weather forecast, which gives you what the weather's doing right now, a 10-minute increment and a 30-minute increment, it's staying wet today.
Unfortunately so. Well, at least to make it sad about we won't see any dry running, but at least we know for definite we won't see any dry running whatsoever. That's going to be a slight relief to the drivers because at that point they don't have to deal with the changeover from wet to dry. What they might have to deal with if the rain keeps up is a transition from slightly damp track to absolutely rain-sodden track. So we'll have to see how they cope with those conditions throughout. And with these treacherous conditions, consistency is key. You've got to not make the mistakes over that half an hour. If you don't make those mistakes, if you keep it on the track, you've got a good chance of a good result.
You absolutely do. And this is going to be a case where if you put hot laps in, there are drivers who are very good at qualifying, very good at putting hot laps. But when it comes to racing, you'll find maybe a couple of drivers in this series will have that ability to charge on up through the field. You'll see a couple of drivers here and there who maybe will be dropping backwards in early goings, and necessarily having the quickest in terms of lap time is not necessarily going to be the guarantees for the race. The starting grid then is as follows: Brioni and Whitehead on the front row with Amato and Messaoud on row number 2. Then it's Urquizi and Nola. Then it's Belhassana and Vaffel on row 4. Urbink and Muscat make the top 10, with Conchabo getting a 11th place start for himself. He has Neto alongside. Barilla and Otti will start on the 7th row with Holm and Vella, and then you've got Stromer and Noto in 18th place. Piardi and Plivac there making the top 20. Rassar, Hannes and Piermet make 23 that we can see on screen at the moment, as Tiziano Brioni has the control of the field at this moment in time, as they will pull away for their one pace lap, it seems, around, or maybe not much of a pace lap at all, as they will be looking to get themselves ready and going. 30 minutes then are on the clock. They need to be incredibly aware of what they need to be doing here today. And, well, let's just focus on where everything is going to be about realities. You can see everyone right now just getting their pace lap going, as there's the green flag. And let's get ourselves then to underway and racing action. Brioni immediately under pressure around the outside. Whitehead sweeping on around, and they're going to go pretty much door to door here through Maggots and Beckett's. They're not going to let anything down as they go through, and that's brilliant work around the outside to take that race lead away. The mid-pack all nicely, cleanly working through, but you can see here number 71 is back in second position then off of this start, as it looks like it was a great bit of work from Whitehead to take the race lead away. Side by side then for 4th place as they go on in towards Stowe Corner.
Yeah, great start from Whitehead, wasn't it? He really got the start he needed there. Meanwhile, we're watching Urquizi trying to go around the outside of Messaoud, going in towards that right-hander of Stowe. We now make our way towards Vale. Urquizi now has got the inside line as we head in towards the left-right-hand section. You can see there, Messaoud is not going to give this up. He's got the inside line heading in towards that club corner. Has to back out of it, though. And Urquizi gets up the position. Then he's up to 4th place. Meanwhile, Max Vaffel has got a great battle and a great view of Nola and Belhassan up ahead as they now make their way in towards Abbey for the first time here, then in towards the left-hander of Farm as they now make their way towards Village. There is Neto there in the number 62 car, making his way in towards the entrance of Village for the very first time as they now try and tackle the loop, but it's very packed just outside of the top 10. It's very packed inside the top 10 as there's Belhassan. He's under immense pressure from Erbrick right behind him. Both of them in the Lexuses as they now make their way up the Wellington Straight and towards Brooklands.
Here's your leader, Luke Whitehead, going through, has the lead against Tiziano Brioni, who has got himself a very, very good storied legacy when it comes to sim racing. And Marto comfortably there in third. There's someone way off the circuit in the background there in 25th place, I believe it was, as his Plivash trying to go on through. It was a driver just behind him then that was running into a couple of troubles here and there, and you can start to see some drivers who haven't had the best of starts and have run into troubles today, and one of them is Gergely Charbot, who is, or Charbot down there in what is 26th position, so he hasn't had the best start of anything. Top three, though, they've broken away. Okizi there in 4th position is the next driver down the pack, but he's already a couple of seconds adrift.
Yeah, and of course, Okizi and Messaid, I believe they are teammates racing in the same team. So there's no love lost between them at this early stage in this championship. And you can see there from 4th place downwards, as they head down the Hangar Straight, I believe that's all the way down to 11th place there in Ryler, down in the Lexus in the number 781, as they now file their way in towards Stowe Corner. Once again, that's a very, very close action there from the Lexus. I think that is of Ryler back there. I could be mistaken, though, as they now make their way on towards Club Corner section.
Look like Vaffel. Oh, there's some contact, and the 888 runs into some troubles. There is Bel Hassan, who is just going to drop back here. Round the outside goes the number 8 of Vaffel. And oh, there's the contact. Vaffel gets speared straight on there at Club Corner and is effectively now losing a whole bunch of time with a massive, massive hit in an accident as the 781 goes for an oopsie-daisy moment. We were waiting for the fireworks, and they came in abundance on lap 2.
Yeah, Ryler getting all out of shape there, going in towards Copse Corner. That back end just did not want to stick in. Sorry, going through in towards Abbey there. He just did not want to stick whatsoever, and he's felt the full force of that. Meanwhile, the Ferrari there is doing a little bit of off-roading. So too is the Porsche behind him. That was Riboldi going off the track there. Another spinner in the background as well. It is all kicking off here in these early stages. Another car off as well.
There's 2 Tech 1 teammates coming together. So Riboldi went off there in the Ferrari there, but there was more dramas to come, as it looked like it was Ligreston, sorry, there in the Lexus, who came together with his teammate going around for a bit of a spin. Not ideal at all, but for the time being, there are no such dramas for those 3 Lexuses at the front of the field, position 1, 2, and 3. And in 30 minutes, if you start spinning, you start making mistakes, you don't have a lot of time to gain things back. Jimmy Holmes had a really good start to this race in the green Porsche. He's now up into 11th position here, and he's got another Porsche just behind him in Hans Hannes, and those two will be definitely looking to battle it out. There's another one of those Porsches right now, and Adam Plivac, he's now up inside the top 20.
And he's got Muscat, though, right on the back of him in the number 14 Mercedes, as we now fire our way in towards Maggots and then in through Beckett's here. You can see that Mercedes is not going anywhere anytime soon, as they now find their way on towards Chapel and down the Hangar Straight. Is this a chance for Muscat here to have an overtake or an opportunity to get his way past Plivash, as we now make our way down in towards Stowe Corner? And no way through right now. Bit of grass clipped on the way in for Muscat, though, braver than I would be for certain, as that car just fights him there, fighting on, trying to hang on to any sort of grip he can find going through Stowe Corner.
That Mercedes-Benz does love top speed, and that's going to be worth keeping an eye out on, as here is Miguel Nato under pressure. Bel Hassan will definitely want to try and get back through in what is the Lexus. The Aston Martin doing a good job at the moment of holding that one back, as it seems like the pride of Britain here is holding on station. But Miguel Nato here gets a nice run then onto the Wellington Straight, and this is going to be where you need to try and find those advantages and use all of things to perspective. But let's talk about perspective here, because that's Tiziano Brioni, who has managed to find a way back through on the 557. Then Whitehead has dropped behind, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it was that corner that we just saw of Brooklands where the move was able to be made. He wasn't going to stay behind for long. Tiziano Brioni is now your new race leader.
Yeah, as we head now in through that treacherous corner, that treacherous right-hander of Abbey, these Cops corner now through the first corner as the three Lexuses run pretty much in tandem at this moment in time. There is Pierluca Amato just trying to keep stead in that third place. There's the number 25 car of Kun Szabo there as he makes his way now, the Hungarian, through in towards that final sort of braking zone, if you like, of Luffield. There's Dean Vella making his way towards that start-finish line, and he's got Truzzi right in front of him, but we could have a move for second place here as Whitehead has to do some defending here from Pierluca Amato as we make our way in towards Cops corner. Luke Whitehead just about holds on to that second place, but the problem for Whitehead and Amato is if they start battling now, they're going to lose track of the leader, and Amato doesn't try a move in towards that left-hander going through club corner section.
This is where the catch-22 is, as this is Daniel Stramer in the AMG Mercedes. He's going to try the long way around Hans Hannes, and he has lost the place then here to Hannes, so trying to get that one back again, and again, it's not quite there for the number one. This is the first time this series is running. He's not the reigning champion. Nola, though, he's got a few troubles here, as that, I believe, is Erbrich going down the inside and is taking 6th position away. So a good bit of effort there, and Nola now has work to do in the Aston Martin to get that one back in terms of inside the top 10. Just outside of that, though, we are seeing here Stramer. He's now looking behind at the Bentley of Noto, trying to get on a way through, and not going to find that one for the time being.
No, not at the moment, but Miguel Neto here has some defending to do from Bel Hassan behind him as they now make their way upwards towards that left-hander of Brooklands now, just trying to slow the car down, just trying to find any grip you can going through the left-hander. Now we go in towards Luffield once again. A couple of different lines you can take going through Luffield, and they're all pretty good. Meanwhile, Jan-Niklas Erbrich here, the German in the Lexus, hanging on to 6th place. It was a nice move he made on Nola going in towards Abbey. It's a really nice move. He had the inside line. He had the confidence as well and braked later than Nola behind him. Managed to make that move stick. Hans Hannes here in the Porsche in 11th place. He's got the number 1 at Mercedes right behind him as they now make their way through that right-hander of Cops and just trying to hang on to any sort of grip you can in these really tricky conditions. I tell you what though, Noto has had a really good run through Cops corner. He's all over the back of Stramer.
Absolutely he is, and Umberto Noto in what is the very, very nice Bentley in the, I would say, the white, the orange, and of course the black as well. Doesn't quite get the chapel that he would desire, and as such, it's another case of the waiting game that we're going to be seeing, and this is the catch-22 again that we see. If you're in a train of 4 or 5, you're getting the advantage of slipstream, of toe in front, from the cars in front again and again and again, and with everyone hitting very similar speeds despite the discrepancies and the differences that we see in the balance of performance, there's still no way that we're seeing these moves happening.
No, at this moment, not at the moment, as we see there the Bentley of Noto trying to make a move up the inside of Stramer. Oh, there's contact between the two of them going through in towards club corner, and I think Stramer there has just about rejoined, but they're just battling as hard as they possibly can going through. We're going to see a replay of what exactly happened. So Stramer here is going down towards Vale, now going in towards the club corner section. So he's got Noto right behind him as they make their way through. The right-hander here, he's sticking tight to that curb, puts him wide. That made Noto think, this is my opportunity to try and make a move, and the gap just squeezed there. It's always tough going too wide through there. Stramer just had to take to that tarmac on the outside and lost 2 positions in the running. So far, all the incidents we've seen, bar that one, have been racing instants, but I wonder what the stewards are going to make of that one.
We certainly will have a little look at those, or the stewards certainly will, and there is a team keeping an eye out on things. Adrian Fagaio, the race director, and George Muscat, who is the chief steward, will be definitely having a little look at that. Both FIA accredited as stewards as well. So Jimmy Holm here in 11th position, crossing the start-finish line. It has Noto just behind in this battle just outside of the top 10, as half distance in this race is going to be scored complete in about the next 2 laps or so at this moment in time. But to Maggots and Beckett's once again, these two will come along. Now, the Porsche, traditionally, with the way it looks, might be the better cornering car, but you've got that big, long hanger straight, which is going to be coming up, and it's all about this run out of this corner, where we could be seeing Umberto Noto really get on the binders, and a little wiggle there from the Porsche means now is the time to strike while the iron is hot. Umberto Noto is going to have to go the long way around to make this one happen, but has to be a little bit earlier on the brakes due to the speed discrepancies, and that's why that Porsche is so difficult to get past.
Yeah, and of course with its shorter wheelbase as well than the Bentley, it's always going to be a tough one to try and outmaneuver, especially through the corners. So the Bentley of Noto just has to bide his time and see if he can get past the Porsche of Hannes right up ahead of them as we make our way through. There is a Messau who is right on the attack here, but he has to be careful from the Lexus of Erbrecht, who's really reeled him in that 779 Lexus as they make their way through towards the loop. We've got Stramer there who's trying to recover from that earlier off, but now he's being hounded by the Lexus of Otti and the number 114 as they make their way in through that corner of Village and then towards the loop. But Luke Whitehead is under real pressure from Pierluca Amato. The two Lexuses are about to do battle on the exit of Luffield here, trying to get the exit spot on. They've left Brioni to really lead the race all on his own, and that's the problem when you're battling this hard for second place, is you will lose sight of the leader as we approach the halfway mark in this race. Luke Whitehead trying to hold his own out there as we make our way through that legendary Cops Corner. Nice bit of confident driving from the two of them, but it looks like Amato there got a really good run out of there. Otti, meanwhile, he has, I believe that was one of the Bentleys behind him. Is that Noto behind him? I'm just trying to look at that.
I think it is, and Otti there has done very well, and that is Umberto Noto, who has dropped about 2 or 3 places now into 15th position. So definitely not been the best lap that Umberto has been looking for. There has been a mistake somewhere out on circuit, so that's going to have to be work to be done, and especially in a mid-pack like this, where every point is going to matter in terms of this championship. You definitely do not want to be on the outside looking in when it comes to something like this. And all about those lines going onto the hangar straight. Once again, this is where the Bentley is going to definitely shine, and it was definitely defended as we look at Dean Vella all the way back in 24th position in the only Audi in the pack. He is, I believe, now behind Trazian. That's someone off there on the side of the road. I didn't quite catch who that was, but there was a blink of an eye. Yep, just past him. And it's as we get to Ligrust, it was someone in 25th place at the time who had run into trouble. So somebody off the road and pulled it to an end and saying that's a day.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate there. So we'll try and find out who that was later on in this race. Meanwhile, we're watching on for the number 25 Lexus of Kunchabo here as he now makes his way through in towards Club Corner and on towards the, what they say, the new start-finish line. It's not the start-finish line for these cars as we now make our way on towards Abbey and Farm once again. Meanwhile, though, the battle for second place still hotting up as we head our way through Luffield and on towards Woodcote and on towards the start-finish line for these drivers. Meanwhile, Reina Ressar is under huge pressure from Vaffel behind, and he's also under pressure from Muscat in the 14 Mercedes as they now make their way in through Aintree.
Well, that's a mistake. Wide going is Vaffel, so Sheldon Muscat's going to pick that one up, but the very, very striking pink Nissan is doing all of enough, but there goes Muscat straight on through. But why is he straight through? Because he's straight on, and that is something that often happens too very often when it comes to racing. Sometimes you think you've got the move done, you sail on by, and you realise that your car has turned into a boat.
Yeah, and I like the pun, the sail on by. Yeah, that's exactly it. You think you've got the braking absolutely spot on, but then you forget it's the wet conditions and it's even trickier to try and stop these cars. Meanwhile, Umberto Noto is under pressure now from Ryler as we now make our way in through this Maggots and Beckett section as the 504 Bentley is really struggling with these conditions right now as he's just trying to make his way through that Beckett section, through Chapel and onwards now towards the hangar straight. And remember, I think it's the top 15 that score points in the championship. So really those two are going to be battling hammer and tong. Meanwhile, the battle still rages on for P17. There is Stramer who runs wide, who runs deep, going in towards Stowe Corner. Is able to hold on there, but that looks to me like that is a Mercedes that might be in a little bit of trouble, maybe pushing quite hard in order to try and make up some lost time, but at the same time is struggling now to keep that car on the track.
And of course, they have to be very, very cautious about how much they are using up their tyre life as well. They want to make sure they have something left underneath them to attack in the late stages of the race. And you don't often talk about wet weather tyres and tyre life when it comes to something like this, because you've got a massive chunky wet weather tyre that's all about building and making sure that it can clear off away. But the more that rubber is going to be put down onto the circuit, the more aggressive you are on the tyres, the less grip that you're really going to have, because you have less tyre tread effectively. As the 8 decide to prove the points entirely, start pushing too hard, and well, you're going to have no grip in the corner.
Yeah, and that looked like the back end just stepped out of it, and there's no way of trying to catch that one. A little bit of a slide there, and then just mashing on the throttle to try and get the car turned around. But for Vaffel there, that's going to cost him so much time. He'll be so frustrated with making a mistake like that, and that's all too simply that you've taken too much speed through the corner. Speaking of someone taking too much speed through the corner, Messaoud, who's really under pressure now from Erbrick with that running wide at Kopp's corner. He's got to be careful there that he doesn't spin up those rear tyres, because that's where the water is going to build up right on the exit there, because hardly any of the drivers are using that bit of tarmac. So very lucky to get away with that one. Jimmy Hole, meanwhile, is still under that pressure from Stromae as we make our way in towards Maggots and Beckett. You can see taking a more defensive line in towards Maggots there. Meanwhile, that was Alexis getting all the way through. I think that was Ryler on Noto there. Fantastic move going in through Maggots there. Not often an overtaking opportunity you see there, but what a move that was.
Umberto Noto can be found to be sleeping, and there will be a pillow somewhere in that cockpit, because you don't often leave the door open for that sort of move to happen. And it was truly a sensational pass as we keep an eye out on Messaoud at this stage, as he's now got a 2-car train, because for all of the battling and how much Messaoud has been holding things up in 5th place, it's allowed Erbrick, it's allowed Nolla to get onto the back, and that's going to be a little concerning in the late stages. Meanwhile, Stromae, he's also having to deal with Otti right now, going around the outside, maybe at club, using a little bit of that curb and AstroTurf on the exit, try and get on through. Suddenly, he's not looking at trying to attack the 2 Porsches, who are looking a little bit better on tyre life, it seems. As actually, I'll say that with a little bit of worry, as Hannes has just gone off in front. Oh, big wiggle there, going through turn 2 and around the outside, the attempt from the 114 of Otti. And now we've got some Noah's Ark racing, 2 wide, 2 deep.
Absolutely, in these treacherous conditions as well. Stromae is just trying to hang on to that car now, just trying to find the grip wherever it is as he now makes his way through Aintree and onto the Wellington Straight. As you see there, that was Otti getting a little bit sideways. That car just did not want to put the power down as we now make our way on through towards Brooklands here, through that left-hander. You have to slow the car right down going through Brooklands, as it's really easy to get caught out. Meanwhile, Noto there using that straight line advantage, or using that Bentley power to get back past the Lexus of Ryler in the number 781. Now he's on the back of Otti as we now make our way through Luffield and through Woodcote towards Kopp's corner. Is this going to be a chance for him to get 2 Lexuses in one lap? He gives the lights a flash. He lets Ryler know he's there. Meanwhile, sorry, that is Ryler right behind, who wanted to try and replicate that move he made at Maggots, only this time through an even trickier corner of Kopp's corner. Unfortunately for him, the door was just never open there.
Well, here's some side-by-side, as this is Nolla, and he is trying to fend off Bel Hassan, who is going the long way around, wiggle on the exit. And if Jason Derulo was playing that song, there'd be something else on the end of it. But Messaoud is also having to deal with Erbrick right now, as this is going to be up and under. How much of a nose is he going to get to the inside? Well, just going to be held nicely by Messaoud. He takes the cone with him for a good measure of that as well. And I think they're just policing and using those limits just quite a little bit. We are into that crunch time, though. We're into the final 10 minutes, and that top 5's no guarantee. Noto under pressure into the Vale, and that is a clean move from Ryler there to pick up that place and pretty much put an end on that one. But it seems like everyone now has decided, well, there's not much time remaining. Time to see what positions we can get late.
I know, we're now 2/3 race distance, and it's just been action-packed all the way through wherever you look. And don't forget, if you're enjoying this action, make sure you are subscribing, you're liking, you're following, on whatever platform you may be watching on tonight. You are very welcome to be joining us here tonight. Oh, a massive tap there from Holm on Hannes there, as he spins around. The 787 picks him out as well as, 781 of Ryler picks him out as well. And for that Porsche there, it just looked like it was inevitable trouble. That contact between the two Porsches has put Hannes all the way down the order, and I wonder what sort of damage that Porsche is carrying now, and no less what the damage is on the other two cars that made contact. One of them was Riley. I didn't catch who the other car that made contact with that Porsche was.
Looked like home.
It did look like home, didn't it? So the two Porsches coming together at the mid-pack there. Well, that's put Harness all the way down the order, and it's going to put Noto there, Umberto Noto, up a position now as he tries to recover this one. But as I was... Oh, go on, Jake.
Apologies there. It did look like Holm did go back and redress the position. It's something that's more akin to those who follow Australian racing. The redress, something where you do make an incident, you hold, you wait back for someone to go on by and say, yeah, I wasn't going to get the place there with that contact. I'll sit, I'll wait for you, and then we'll go back on again. Focus now on the four-car train behind Redouane Messaoud. This is looking very, very dicey. In the middle of that is his teammate Bel Hassan, and I think Messaoud is a cork in a proverbial bottle that is trying to help Bel Hassan make it 4, 5, and 6 for the H3 team.
Yeah, well, he's got a bit of work to do on his hands. Meanwhile, that is Harness there being passed, I believe, by Holm as he tries to make his way back through the field. He's got Muscat as well, has Harness, right on the back of him. And I wonder how wounded that car is of Harness there as he just tries to get this to the finish. He's still in the top 15. So he will be scoring 1 point at this moment in time, but Sheldon Muscat will be looking to try and rectify that for his part of the deal to try and get himself that late point. Meanwhile, as well, in the Lexus and the number 25, the Hungarian of Kunshabo is under pressure as well from Farfel. But meanwhile, we've got to move for 5th place. That's Erbrick trying to go up the inside of Messaoud, and there is the treble 8 of Bel Hassan who gets a pass as well. So where two people go through, Messo is going to feel a little bit hard done by there, but that is a mistake that he made going in towards Brooklands. Looked like he ran a little bit too deep in towards the apex, missed it completely. And unfortunately now for him, he's let two cars go, which is Erbrick and Bel Hassan. He did so well to defend against them, but he's going to have a hard time catching them back up.
Certainly looked like there was opportunity to attack then inside the final 6.5 minutes. Jimmy Holm is there in 16th. He's got Kunshabo just there for a bit of company, as well as Rassar in the Nissan, trying to get close into that as well. There's someone off just in front of them, and that looked like a Lexus that had run into a couple of troubles. So there'll be someone else that they'll be definitely trying to get on through in the middle of all of this. That could be Ryler there, who is just dropping back. Not quite too sure at the moment, but we'll just see right now. And there's a stop and go of 10 seconds for Otti that has just come through on the system. So 10 extra seconds, for Otti, who was in 11th place, or is in 11th place right now.
Yeah, and we'll have to see this late on. If it is a stop-go penalty, it might be worth more than 10 seconds because, of course, you have to stop in that pit box. Meanwhile, we see there Otti is going side by side with Noto there as we make our way on towards Stowe corner. Noto's got the inside line. Otti has to go the long way around, but I wonder here if he's going to serve this penalty immediately as he's looking to try and get that inside line to try and dart to the right-hand side of the track. Meanwhile, Jan Ryler here is under pressure now from Kunshabo as we make our way through Stowe corner here. Very easy to understeer there, but Ryler's just about held on to that one with Holm right ahead.
Absolutely, he's done very well. I do want to keep an eye out, though, on 2nd and 3rd. We've been a little while away. There's been so much going on in the mid-pack. There is Luke Whitehead, and he's just been keeping at an arm's distance Amato here. But Amato's in that position right now in the final 5 minutes of this race, where he knows that it's only going to be 2nd he's trying to chase down and try and get to. But he needs a good lap now because he doesn't have long left. 4 minutes, 40 seconds. That's 3 laps remaining in this race.
Yeah, so the stewards have come back to us. The incident between Holm on Harness. Holm has got himself a 5-second penalty, so that will be applied at the end of his race. So that's going to hurt even more because he's in a battle right now for that last points-paying position. That's going to hurt even more. But the stewards have found him at fault for that incident between himself and the other Porsche of Harness. Harness finds himself in P13.
Certainly does, but we head through the hangar straight right now. Luke Whitehead, he's got himself about half a second to play with at the moment. He's got about maybe 3 car lengths of an advantage, which is enough at this stage to jam on the brakes and go into the right at Stowe corner. You look at where Brioni is just in front. He's not pulled away massively, but he's pulled away enough to the tune of 3 seconds. He's been holding on. So there is Jan-Niklas Erbrich in 5th position right now. Bel Hassan has been on a really good tear in the last 10 minutes or so, and that's brought him really close. And there is Hans Hannes, the Estonian. He's got mirrors full of Muscat here, fighting 13th and 14th.
Yeah, he's going to have real trouble keeping that Mercedes behind him as we head down the hangar straight. We've got to tackle Chapel first. Try saying that 10 times quickly as we now head on towards the hangar straight. Muscat here is going to have that Mercedes power, and you'd think down the straight that Mercedes just has a slight upper hand, but then we come towards the long right-hander of Stowe Corner, where you'd think here the shorter wheelbase of the Porsche hands that one the advantage. Erbrich, meanwhile, is under pressure from Bel Hassan over that 5th place right now, and the two Lexuses are going to be battling hammer and tong for the final 3 minutes.
And you feel that it's a better run, a better line taken by Bel Hassan, running onto the Wellington Straight. And if there were going to be opportunities, there they are. The move done then for one Mr. Hans Hannes. He's now behind Sheldon Scott Muscat and into 13th position. They do know as well that they have Otti just in front, who has a penalty, so they'll gain another position on that. Erbrich, though, did manage to hold going down the Wellington Straight, and we're down to 2 laps to go. 2 laps to figure this one out for the top 5, and Bel Hassan has just got to play the pressure game. It's not a case of he needs to make the move right now, but he just needs to make Jan-Niklas Erbrich do something that is unexpected for what he's planning on doing.
Yeah, and it's sometimes you just need to try and pressure your rival into that mistake, and that can pay off if the driver makes the mistake. However, it might not pay off when you get into that final lap of the race and you realise, actually, I do actually have to get past you now, and that's where desperation can set in when we head into the final 2 minutes of this race. Brioni here, we haven't seen a lot of him, but when you're leading the race by some margin, that's not always a bad thing. He's just kept himself out of trouble there. Meanwhile, not getting himself out of trouble is Messaoud, who's found himself onto the grass there going through Chapel, and that has lost him a lot of time there.
And a position. Nola has just jumped into 7th then. With that one, it's so easy to make a small mistake. Otti right now is serving that 10-second stop and go penalty, so he'll now be diving down the order. You can see the P indicates that he's down in the pits. There is Stromer, though. The top 10 is another factor that is not secure right now. Look at him. He's going to have to try and play defensive backs because Umberto Noto is closing on in.
He is, as they now make their way in towards Stowe Corner here. You can see that Bentley is looming in the mirrors of the Mercedes there as we make our way now in through Vale and then towards that club corner section. Stromer, he's had quite a race, hasn't he, as we head in towards the final 60 seconds. He's been in and around most of the action we've seen today. He's currently in 10th place. He's got Noto right behind him to do a little bit of defending here. But there is Tijano Brioni here, who will go round for one more lap here. But he is leading the way and leading comfortably as well. Gives a flash of lights to the car in front to let him know that he's coming through as he now makes his way on towards Copse Corner. We are on to what I believe will be the final lap of this race.
We certainly are going to be on the final lap, but there are still those battles coming up. Stromer trying to hold on to a top 10 against Berto Noto. 2nd and 3rd, still not decided. 5th and 6th position, still also not decided either. It seems like we got a mini pack here and there of 2-car fights, as it looks like Noto is starting to fall back a little bit here compared to Stromer, and that will be a little bit disconcerting. We look a little bit back again as Jan Reiler here is under pressure from Vela in this fight for 19th place. The timer does expire, so we're now on that final lap that will be coming up. And again, another little look trying to go on through. Wide goes Reiler, and Vela trying to get on through. No, he's definitely lifted out of that one, trying to get this one going. Side by side for 5th, though. Erbrich is not clear, as Bel Hassan will have to take the long road if he's going to get it. If you take the high road, I take the low road, and I'll be at the finish line maybe before you here as they fight for power on the exit. That's a very big, wide line taken then, and he just about gets the room, almost careens into the side of him, trying to get through. Lights flashing because that was not on, says Erbrich. He goes on through. There is Ligreston, who is getting himself lapped by those in 2nd and 3rd position. It looks like just for the time being, Amato is going to be clear of one Mr. Whitehead. Oh, sorry, Whitehead is clear of Amato at this moment. Bel Hassan is through, is clear, but Focus now on this driver, Tiziano Brioni, heading himself onto the Wellington Straight for the final time. He didn't have everything his own way off at the start. He did get overtaken. Turn 1 at Cops Corner. Had to play the patient game, had to wait to find a way through on Mr. Whitehead. But through the final couple of corners, you could not put a finger wrong on the way that Tiziano Brioni is driving. The Musto Racing man is going to be coming over to the start-finish line and will take round 1 of your World Pro Racing Sprint Series. Silverstone is in Brioni's back pocket.
And a fantastic performance from Brioni. Made that look easy, didn't he? Yes, he didn't get the best start in the world, but Luke Whitehead got a better start than him, but it doesn't matter. Brioni got the result in the end. Amato rounds off the top 3 there. A really good performance from Pierluca
5 seconds
Amato.
for Hassan.
And I'm not surprised at that 5-second penalty for Bel Hassan there. He made the move off the track, so that's going to hand that position back to Erbrick as long as they finish in that order, and as long as Erbrick finishes 5 seconds within Bel Hassan. What's not decided yet is this battle for P10 in the race. Stramer now making his way through Luffield and then in towards that final acceleration point. Who's going to be first towards the line? Who's going to try and seal that top 10 spot? It looks like it's going to be Stramer who's going to take that checkered flag and finish what has been such an eventful race for him in the top 10. Managed to recover there. Notto in 11th place, and that is Pierre Metz there having that little bit of trouble in the number 762 car. But I have to say, let's have a look at this. Yeah, just took a little bit too much speed on the exit there. The rear end just couldn't grip on, and he just had that little bit of a moment there in the 762. But he's rejoined onto the track now, and he might find himself a couple of positions down. But what a result. What a performance from Tiziano Brioni. He will be absolutely thrilled with that one. 35 points on the board.
35 points, 35 points. Definitely couldn't really fault him for it. Brioni from Whitehead, Amato in 3rd. Okwizi will take 4th place, and it was the rejoin that will take Bel Hassan's 5 seconds a little bit down the order that will be applied in post. With Erbrick in what will be promoted now up the positions. Nola, Messaoud, Neto, and then Stramer rounding out the top 10. That we've got the final points positions. Noto, Muscat, Hannes, Vaffel, and I believe Holm has 5 seconds worth of penalty, but we will wait to see how that will all come out as they take their slow down, their cool down lap, and bring it back on into the pits. Tiziano Brioni is your race winner here in this one. And Kieran, you know, it's one of those quiet races where you say at the front of the field where you have to go and make those moves, you have to do so quickly, but at exactly the same time as trying to go out there and make those moves, there's something to be said about just quietly getting on about your business, just finding a couple of tenths of a second a lap, and suddenly you find your gaps a whole hanger straight.
Yeah, and it always helps as well when the battle for second heats up behind you. It just allows you to focus on your own race, and you can set the lap times. You can set them consistently as well with that clear air ahead of you, clear air behind you. It's one of those races where he had the race to himself in the final 20 minutes. That's exactly what he needed, exactly what he wanted. And at the end of it, he's got himself a well-deserved 35 points.
And speaking of 35 points, well, he'll have maybe 35 points to make here as he joins us right now in the commentary box. Tiziano, that will go down as a race where you had to really work for it in the early stages. Got yourself side by side off the line, but ultimately it was all about trying to get into position to make that move to give yourself the race lead again.
Yes, I was in the position in the first corner. I was a little bit sleeping, I think, and then I tried to follow the car in front of me and try to find a point to overtake. And finally, I did, I think, a really good move, and I take the position. Then I think only to going fast and arrive as soon as possible at the finish line in the first position.
And getting that first position is very crucial. How important was it for you to start off this season properly, getting maximum points, knowing that you've got yourself Barcelona coming up in a week's time, and just wanting to get a good start to the season, making sure that everyone else who will be coming up behind you knows that you're the driver to beat?
Having a good start is always a really good thing. So I think that these 35 points to start the championship is a really good result. Next track is a little bit tricky because I don't hide that I hate Barcelona, and I try to defend as better as possible.
Well, the floor is yours, Tiziano. Shout out sponsors, anyone you'd like to thank for picking up the victory here today.
Yeah, I want to thank my team for the support and my team Muso GD Esports, and thank to Trustmaster that sponsored us. And so that's all. Was a good race, and hope to be better and better next times.
Tiziano Brioni picking up the race victory exactly how he wanted to. Luke Whitehead finished off in second position. He stood by with Kieran McGinley.
Yes, he is indeed. Unfortunately, Luke, you got me to interview you. Luke, second place for your first race of the season. How do you feel about that one?
Well, I am happy with how I drove, but I'm a little bit disappointed, all things considered. I've got to be honest, before the race started, I panicked a little bit and overfueled the car by 20 litres. So that really, really made me struggle. At the start, I was got a really good start. I'm not really sure how I managed it. Got around the outsides through Cops and then into Maggots and Beckett's, and then just had nothing really at the start. And sort of the pace was pretty good at the end. Was able to shake Amato at the end a little bit, but yeah, made that race a lot harder for myself. But happy with how I dealt with it.
Yeah, speaking about your start as well, it was a fantastic start, a move around the outside. Not often we get to see a move going through Cop's Corner like that. That must have felt a really good. That must have been really good and felt really good as well.
Well, I must admit, at the moment, I was kind of like, okay, this is good. I just need to hold this position. But afterwards, when I sort of looked at the replay and saw that overtake, I was like, wow, that's one of my best. So yeah, really, really, really happy. Looking forward to the next rounds, so that I know how much fuel I actually need next time. But yeah, over the moon.
Yes, hopefully you don't overfuel the car next time. Luke, the floor is yours if you want to shout out any sponsors or anyone in particular.
Okay, I'd like to say a massive thank you to my amazing sponsors, Car Crowd UK. They're a huge help to me. Really have been amazing. My manager, Robert Rotherston. Obviously, we're running under his name, company name Rostrum. I'd like to thank my friends and family and everyone that's watching. I think my dad's watching in fishing, so he's taken his time out to support me, which is brilliant. So thank you everyone watching.
Well, that's fantastic to hear. Well done, Luke, on that second place. It's back to you, Jake, for an interview with our third place man.
Certainly am, and we are getting Pierluca Amato. We are getting translations, though, through this from English to Italian and Italian back to English. So Adrian Fagaio will be stepping in as well in terms of translating everything out. So Pierluca, that was a case of being close enough, but it looked like maybe Luke was in a position where he was just able to hold you back, maybe in a quiet place where it's not quite available to just get exactly what was needed come the end.
Wait.
Okay, I believe it might be Tiziano who will be translating
yes,
here. So,
per lui ha detto praticamente, dice, hai cercato di prendere la seconda posizione, però dice magari il pilota davanti a te è riuscito a tenerla avendo qualcosina in più, o magari c'è stato qualche buono spot che lui ha avuto e tu no, dice, però tutto sommato è stata una buona gara per la terza posizione.
Sì, è stata una gara abbastanza buona, mi sono accontentato, le condizioni erano molto difficili oggi. Peccato per la qualifica, però va bene così.
So he said that was a really tricky race and really hard conditions, struggle to drive in these wet conditions, but for today is a really good result at the third position, and he is looking after.
And in terms of getting third position, the crucial fact about that race was that there were zero mistakes, really, that we were able to catch on camera. How important for you is consistency off of the start of this season, knowing that you've got a very short turnaround each week for a 5-round championship, and big points early on really do help more than maybe other championships?
Dice praticamente quanto è importante la costanza nell'avere buoni risultati per quanto riguarda questo risultato, considerato che un campionato di 5 gare, ogni gara praticamente è un punto cruciale per quanto riguarda il campionato, considerate le sole 5 gare.
Tutto sta in base anche a quello che fanno gli altri. Sicuramente bisogna essere costanti, ma sicuramente bisogna cercare anche di vincere qualche gara e di fare punti importanti.
So he said that it's so important to be consistent and concrete, but it's so important to try to take some important points with winnings, and he will try to do it next times.
Well, next time, of course, is Barcelona in 1 week. So before we let you go, Pierluca, shout out sponsors, anyone you'd like to thank.
Dico se vuoi salutare qualche sponsor in particolare o qualcuno.
Ma saluto lo sponsor Trustmaster e anche il nostro sponsor principale del team, Musto.
Well,
as for me, I want to thank our sponsor Musto and Trustmaster that sponsor us, and he is looking after for Barcelona, and he will try to do the best.
No worries at all. Pierluca Amato then finishing home in third position. Tiziano Brioni, our race winner, translating for us here in the commentary booth. But Kieran, final thoughts as we bring proceedings to a close here today from a sodden wet Silverstone.
I think if round one is anything to go by, you need to tune into the remaining 4. That was action-packed all the way through. Wherever we looked out on track, there was always something going on. And that's just really good signs for a really good championship. It's fast, it's high octane, and it's only 5 rounds. So mistakes have to be kept to a absolute minimum for these drivers out there. So we'll see how they get on with a very short turnaround when we head to Barcelona next week.
And the only place you can catch that is here with World Pro Racing on YouTube, on Facebook Live, and on Twitch as well. If you haven't already, you can like, share, and subscribe for that, as well as for those who have been watching on motorsport.tv, on TVM Sports, and on ESTV, the Esports Television Network. From everyone who's been working hard behind the scenes, the likes, of course, from those in the stewarding team, George Muscat, the chief steward, and Adrian Fagayo, the race director. From those behind the cameras, Justin and Nathan Mifsud, who have been working over on this one. From that guy over there, Kieran McGinley. From this guy right here, Jake Sperry. It's Tiziano's time in the opening round. A wet race, which he was able to master in the early stages and build up a comfortable gap. But when it comes to Barcelona, when it comes to the Circuit de Catalunya, there are going to be quite a few differences moving up onto the horizon. Who's going to find that? Well, we do not know, and we don't know where the form book lies when we go on to that. All we know is that Tiziano has the control at the moment. It's highlights right after this. Stay with us right now, but from all of us here who have been bringing you this action, we will see you in 1 week's time.
Drop